Waiting for people to show up. I don't know how we could have a thumbs down before we even got started. Good morning, everyone. Oh, 3 people here. So, good morning. I don't know how we can have a thumbs down before we even got started. Good morning, Kathy. We're going to work in the meditation journal today. And just to review, this is a little like junk journal I made a while back. The cover is out of like an old painted canvas I took apart, and fabric bits and just different things. And inside is just plain white mixed media paper signatures. There's just one signature in here. And I just use this to do, hey, Peg. Okay, have a great day, Peg. Good to have you just pop in real quick. I use this meditation journal to just put these quick, slow stitches in. I do the stitches separately from the journal and then glue them in. And I'm not trying to like make, a specific composition or, create a face or anything like that. These are just really abstracted. And so I keep getting asked about doing some of these live on camera. So we're going to work on one of these today. I got to here, so we'll put these here. But like I said, the stitches are done separately from here. These pages are just a little bit bigger than 6 by 6. Let's see. Oh, I take that back. These are 5.5. Are they 5.5 square? Yeah, 5.5 square. And these are pre-cut squares of cotton quilting fabric. I think they're called charm packs. I'm honestly not a quilter. And these are 5-inch squares. I have a couple different charm packs in my stash of stuff. Oh, now I can't put the ruler back. I have this one that's like plaids. And then I have one that's bee themed. Yeah, thanks, Peg. It's fun to not only have your work in a journal, as we all know, but it's kind of fun to do the work separately from the journal and then paste it in. It's especially when you're stitching. I think it's a little easier to get the stitches done. You could do this in a 6 by 6. You just want, like I said, the pages in there are 5.5 inch square. These are only 5 inches. So you want your square of fabric to be slightly smaller than the page. It makes it easier to glue in. So the first thing I need to do is pick a piece of fabric, which is what I was going to do when I got started this morning. And again, I think it's really weird that, bye, Peg. Really weird that we have a thumbs down already. I haven't even gotten started yet. I don't know. Anyway, it's the apocalypse, so I don't know. So I'm going to just pick one. And again, I'm not looking for anything in particular. I'm just looking to follow my instincts on this. This one looks interesting. So we'll put that one aside. And then I have all of these over here. Hey, Lisa. So this is a pack of charm squares. Charm pack? I think they're called charm packs, but I'm not sure. If you're a quilter out there and you know what these pre-cut squares are called, let me know. Yeah, you could work in it in the book, but for this particular meditation journal, my goal is to just do a little stitch and then to preserve it, put it in a book, put it in a journal. Generally, when I'm doing these, I have all the devices off. I'm, of course, not I'm reading the questions while I'm talking, so it's distracting. I have all the devices off. I have the music on. I'm not talking to anybody. Usually the doors are closed and I'm just stitching. I'm letting go of everything that's going on in the world and just working on the stitch. And then when I'm done with it, I give it a good press and I glue it into the book. A fat quarter is half of a yard. These I'm pretty sure are called charm packs. Yeah, charm square. Yeah. These are 5-inch ones. They come in different sizes. And again, my book is about 5.5 inches square. So when I put it in the book and when I glue it down, I get, well, I mean, assuming I glue it down straight and not crooked, which I seem to never do. And this piece, as you can tell, was much bigger than the page. You get about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Okay, so I have to pick a background fabric. I'm still thinking I want to use this one. That might be interesting. Maybe. I don't think so, but we'll see. All right, so I think we're going to use this for our background. I've got lots of different bits and pieces, threads and stuff all around me. So the first thing I do is I do use my meditation journal pages as an excuse to use up some of the crazy small bits that are on the table that I haven't managed to get rid of yet. Oh, and by the way, hi, Sylvie. Good morning. I think I forgot to say good morning. I do like this green piece on here. I think this is some bias tape that was sent to me by Lisa Swank. I used it in the cactus that we finished last week. Hey, Barbara. So literally, this is what I do. I just grab some crazy bits and pieces and I start laying them on there with no rhyme or reason until I get a composition of fabric, colors, and textures that I'm happy with. It's a great way to use up all those little scraps that you've had laying around that you kind of were like, I don't know if I want to throw that away. I don't like that there. I don't like the pink. Oh, I'm sorry, Barb. Yeah, that sucks. I've unfortunately had that happen to me a few times. You know, because you'd think you'd learn once after injuring your hand the first time not to do it again, but well, no. So just get your crazy bits and pieces. I don't generally trim them too much, except that I want them to be confined within the 5-inch square. I think I don't like this piece. Yeah, the brace, the last time I hurt my hands, I was still working full time. And as a retail display merchandiser, and doing the job while in a hand brace was challenging, to say the least. Okay, so I think I like this. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. Now, just like with the cactus, I use my pins to sort of just hold everything together. You can, of course, use the sewing basting glue, which I don't know where it's at right now. This stuff, glue stick. And when I make English paper pieces, the hexagons or circles, I use the glue stick. Most of the time I use pins. I don't bother finishing the edges or turning anything under. Okay, scissors. I'll catch up on the chat in just a second. Okay, just like with some of my other art too, you will find in the meditation journal that I usually have words involved. Like in a lot of my other art, my work usually involves words in some fashion. I like this little patch of green. I don't know why. So I do have a couple of word phrases here. Own it and open your eyes. I'm not sure which one's going to be on here for sure, but I think it's going to be this one. Yeah, Kathy, you're so funny. So for those that don't know, my husband has severe rheumatoid arthritis of the spine. The last time he threw his back out, y'all ready for a laugh this morning? He was helping me with the laundry and he dropped my bra on the floor. He threw his back out picking my bra up. So now we have endless jokes about my bra and how heavy it is. And it's just, and he like threw it out so bad. And we were on vacation. Like it was so bad. Okay, so these are some little hexagons that I've done from English paper piecing. And I have the circles out too, but I think I want to use the hexagons. Yeah, it was so funny. And it's still funny. We were on vacation, so it did kind of screw up the vacation, but it was still hilarious. Let's see. So now I'm going to just find some that I think work. You will notice I'm trying not to introduce too many new colors. Maybe that one. I don't know if I want all of these plaid on there. Not sure about that. Usually I'll do one and like one. I'll do 3 different colors. Normally, we could make one, I suppose, because, you know, it's not like I don't have the stuff laying on the table. That's too bright. I'm going to say that's too bright, but it might not be. Yeah, these are great. Now you can do these. Anybody who's done English paper piecing before knows you can do these, and usually you like based around the little paper pattern. I cut these on my silhouette with some cardstock to the size that I wanted that works for my slow stitching. And then I used that glue stick to attach them, which is a fabric glue stick. And maybe we will make one. Where's my glue stick? Okay, so you just need a bunch of little hexagons cut into the same shape. You, of course, can buy them, but if you have a paper punch, a hexagon paper punch, you can use that, and then they're all the same size. If you have a die cut machine like a Silhouette or something like that, you can use that too. Got all these little bits of fabric here. Do I have one that actually works though? Let's see. Oops, covered up the chat. Yeah, on the cutter. So I just went on my Silhouette cutter and I just did a whole sheet of hexagons. I had to create it because they didn't have one. Nope. I need something that's like maybe this one. Yeah, that might work. All right. Yep, that'll work. Okay, so you just lay your little, these hexagons are like 1 1/4 inch. These squares on this table are 1 inch squares. So this is a good size for me for working with most of my slow stitching. I generally don't need them to be any bigger than this, and the circles are about the same size. And you do them the same way. This is, of course, just a circle, so it's different shape. So start with the hexagons, they're a little easier. So just lay it on your fabric, and you want just a little, like a 1/4 of an inch or so hanging over the edge of your paper piece. Let me zoom in. Hold on. Okay. So then you just want to roughly cut around the hexagon. These little bits, normally we would throw them away, but they make great stuffing. If you save them, I have a whole jar of them across the other side of the room, and I use them when I'm making like pin cushions and stuff. Okay, so now you have your hexagon. And I'm going to take my glue stick. Again, this is a fabric glue stick, and it's a basting glue stick. So when it gets wet, it washes away. There's probably, yeah, Kathy, there's probably a hexagon for it somewhere. You could, of course, cut these by hand, but getting them all to be the exact same size would be just a nightmare for me. I'm the lazy crafter, if you don't remember that. I'm not the frugal crafter. That's Lindsay Wyrick. I'm the lazy crafter. So I only have so much patience. So then I run my glue stick around the edge of the hexagon. And then start at one end and push it up into the glue. Up against the edge of the paper. And I always do it flat on the table like this. And I usually, like you see, I have a stack of them because I usually do a whole bunch of them. I don't usually just do one. Oh, there's not enough glue right there because I'm chatting while I'm gluing. The glue goes on blue and it dries clear, by the way. And you can just do a whole bunch of these like while you're sitting in front of the TV or something. And then you have a hexagon. And yeah, see, that works on that. Okay. So then to sew them together, you actually need sewing thread and a smaller needle. It's a great TV project. And then I just have a little jar. This is recycled from a Home Chef meal, one of those meal kits. I always save the containers. And I just have the hexagon, the pre-cut ones in here. And then, I make them and I stick them in there. Okay, so I need a sewing needle. Let's see. Probably this one. And I need actual sewing thread. I have this spool of sort of vintage silk thread that's very thin and sort of a little bit brittle, but it works for this. And I am going to double it up because it is very thin thread. So before you do anything else with this, I do want to have my hexagons sewn in sort of a triangle like that. So they may not be placed exactly there, but I do want them sewn together that way. You could sew them down like this, but it's easier if you sew them to each other first. So I'm going to lay them right sides together. And then on one of the flat sides, I'm going to start in one corner. And my thread already has a knot in it. I'm going to go through, and you can feel with the needle if you're getting fabric and cardstock or just fabric. And you just grab a couple threads of the fabric. And just little tiny stitches all the way across till you get to the other point. And, if you're not young anymore, like most of us, you need your reading glasses for this. But again, if you know that you want to sew a bunch of these together, this is a good TV project, especially, if the husband's watching one of his, oops, see, I told you it was brittle. If the husband's watching one of his crazy TV shows and, you're down there sort of keeping company, but you're not, interested in what's on the TV. This is a good thing to do. Hey, Aunt Beck. So before I trim that, I'm going to go back and do a couple more stitches. So that was partly my fault. I pulled too hard, which I have a habit to do even with brand new thread, just FYI. That's a thing that I do. Is pull too hard on my threads. And unless it's like embroidery floss or buttonhole twist, I pull too hard and then I end up breaking the thread. We're not sewing anything that's going to have stress put upon it, so you don't need to pull the thread that hard. Now those paper pieces don't stay in there in the back. They do come out. There is a quilter and fabric designer. She does videos on YouTube called Tula Pink. She's been around a long time, but she's new to me. And she has some great tutorials on quilting and English paper piecing and stuff. She's the one I heard about the glue stick from. Oh, good. Yeah, I have a slow stitch kit I ordered months ago. It took 2.5 months to get here from, across the ocean because of COVID. And yeah, I can't wait to try it. So I'm going to cut my thread off here. There we go. Now our first two are sewn together. You can barely see the stitches. So now we're going to add the other one. So I'm going to, again, put it right. I want it to be right here. So I'm going to put right sides together and do the same thing over again here and then here. Hey, Linda. Good morning. Don't forget to like and thumbs up the video, if you will. Before we even got started this morning, I had a thumbs down, which is weird. At some point, we'll do something besides slow stitching. In fact, I started getting inspiration images finally from different people that I know or that my sister knows for the next watercolor journal. For those that don't know, I did one that I finished right as this whole crazy pandemic thing was getting started, full of eyeballs. I'm going to do one that's lips next. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, Aunt Beck. But to be honest, I've been on social media and YouTube a long time, so, I have some detractors out there. So, anything is possible. What I will say to you, if you're going to do some of this English paper piecing, even if you're sewing one or two of them together, like I am for putting on your slow stitch piece, don't take the cardstock thing out until you get your main pieces sewn together. And if you're worried about like the edges not staying straight, maybe give it a press. I think ultimately right now, people are having a hard time dealing. Especially if they're choosing to ignore it and not talk about it, and then the stress just builds up. And I don't think that's very healthy. Okay, so now we have that. So we need to sew these two together. So what I do is I just do this and sort of curl this one without bending it. Line up this straight edge here that needs to be sewn together. I do usually start in the corner. And I usually take an extra stitch in said corner. Now, the nice thing about DIYing the little hexagon shapes, oh, see, I pulled too hard again, is that if you tear it, taking it out, or if you sew through it or something like that, you know, it's not a big deal. You've used scraps of paper to create them, so it didn't cost you anything. If you bought your hexagons and then you tore them in half, then I'd be more mad. But I just literally used scraps of paper. I used notebook covers, I'm sorry, paper pad covers and stuff like that to create the hexagons, literally scraps of paper. Let's get rid of that little tail. Okay. I don't know what Fibsville is. Does somebody want to fill me in while I'm sewing? I don't have time for people that are so filled with hate. I have better things to do. Like stitching and chatting with you all. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was watching a couple of Mary's broadcasts the other day. Well, until I got interrupted, because her broadcasts are interesting, but they're long, and I got interrupted and I couldn't keep watching. Family stuff. All right, so we're just going to quickly sew this other side together. Again, put on your favorite music. Turn the devices off. Tell the family, don't bug me for an hour or however long you want to sit and do this. Even if I'm downstairs doing this on the couch in front of the TV, the husband, again, is watching TV, but I've usually got my earbuds in and I've got music in the background. He literally has to, if you can picture this, he's on the other sofa and he's literally flailing his arms around, trying to get my attention when he wants to talk to me because I've got the earbuds in and I'm totally not listening. Yeah, that's totally okay. I haven't even, my kit came finally, but I haven't opened it yet. I've been too busy doing, well, I was doing the 30 and 30 paintings, and so I haven't even had a chance to open it yet. And I'm still trying to get that stupid Christmas bunny cross stitch thing done downstairs. I'm just not motivated to get it done. I'm trying to force myself. Okay. That broke, but I was done. So, all right. So now we have this. So isn't that cute? And I think I would put it like right here. And then I think I would put this somewhere around there. First, we need to, before we take the paper out of this, first we're going to sew these down. So let's put this here. I'm going to grab, no, I don't want that one. I've got all these needles with some thread on them, so I'm going to try to use up the thread that I have. Yeah, I think that color works, which is, I think, this color. Hey, now. Okay, so just like with some of the other stitches, I'm just gonna do some sort of loosey-goosey running stitches, not too big, but I'm not going to I'm not gonna focus on if they're like all the same size or anything. I'm gonna come up from underneath. I leave them in, so I try to pick a color that's sort of a neutralish color from the background of the piece that I'm working on, because I am gonna leave them in. Thank you. So a running stitch, for those that are unfamiliar with sewing, is this kind of stitch here where you have a stitch, a space, a stitch, a space. Ideally, the space is the same length as the stitch. If you're doing a back stitch, you're doing a stitch and you're coming up here, but then you're going back to fill the space in before you go forward. This is just a running stitch. It's very quick and very easy. And as you get some of the parts stitched down, you can take some of your pins out. So when you're doing this, if you're using the glue, then you can just stitch and not worry about it. The pins can sometimes get in your way. And when I'm having a day where I'm really frustrated already, that's when I'll break that glue stick out and just glue everything down. This is going to be a journal page. We're doing a page for the meditation journal that I showed last week, this journal here. And when I'm done, the page will be glued in. Oh, congratulations. It's weird to have things like birthdays and anniversaries in the midst of this craziness that we call life this year. So yes, if you guys have any slow stitching projects, especially, but art in general that you're working on that you want to share in one of the art Facebook groups, please do. If you have questions about something that you've seen or you want to ask and you don't get it asked here today, you can tag me in a post or one of the admins and we'll get your question answered. So I like just those stitches right there. So I'm going to tie this thread off. Hey, Lisa, Swank, good morning. My daughter, who is 25, going to be 25, she keeps telling me she wants to learn how to sew, garment sew, because I did start out as a seamstress in my working career. I have her bag over here hanging on a doorknob. It's still there. It's been there for like 8 months. Yeah, I don't know when that's going to happen. I have 2 different art groups on Facebook. The original one is called A Life of Art and Self-Expression, and the other one is My Creative Year. Aunt Beck. Maybe if she has a chance, she can put in a link for you all. So on this green piece, I'm going to do it in this same thread, but I want to do the stitches vertically instead of horizontally. There's a pin there, so I keep hitting the pin. So I'm going to take that pin out and move that pin over here. I just want to hold the fabric flat while I'm stitching it. The more layers of fabric you go through, the harder sometimes it is to get that needle poked through. And I'm not a huge fan of thimbles, but when I do use a thimble, I either use a leather thimble or I have these little sticky thimbles. Oh, here. These are repositionable little leather dots you can just stick on your fingertip. I got them at Amazon. I don't know where my other scissors are. Oh, at the moment. Never mind. They're right here. You'll do great, Lisa. Just remember that seam ripping is just as important as the actual construction. And there's nothing wrong with having to rip something out that's not quite right. Start simple. Don't start out with something complicated. I made my wedding dress back in the day. I thought when we moved, maybe about, having my daughter got married, maybe having her, cut it up and make something out of it, or, donating it or getting rid of it. And she was like horrified. She says, "Oh my God, Mom, no, I'm not going to wear your dress," but that doesn't mean that you're allowed to get rid of it. Yeah, you have to learn how to seam rip. One of the things I like about slow stitching is, at least for me, I like the messiness of some of my stitches. So I'm not too concerned about seam ripping, but when I'm making garments, that's a different issue. And also have scraps of fabric laying around so that you can practice before you sew the actual thing. You can practice your tension and your stitch length. And when you're doing, something like buttonholes for the first time, you can work on a scrap of fabric before you dig into the actual garment and mess up a buttonhole. Just like everything else in creation and, in creating art and creative things, practice, practice, practice. Oh, you never got that part. Oh, I'm so sorry, Aunt Beck. I was hoping that you would hear back. And yeah, I have a old Simplicity 4-thread overlock. I bought it from like Finger Hut or something back in the day, made payments on it. Becca was a brand new little baby. I wanted to make baby clothes. I still have it. It's great for sewing knits. I just made myself a nightgown the other day out of some knit scraps I had laying around, and yeah, it was easy. It took like an hour. Okay, so those are the first two sections. So now I think I'm going to do this piece before I do this piece here. I was talking to my sister last night and we were both laughing, about Corona brain. And I know I said this to you all last week, but you get so stressed you can't remember the name of things, and you can't necessarily always speak coherently, or you're home all the time, so you're not used to speaking to anybody but your spouse. It's sort of like when I was in the daycare business. At some point you got used to just speaking to children. So then the trap there is, when you are speaking to adults, you're speaking to them like they're two, and losing the English words. And I couldn't think of the name of the TV show Game of Thrones last night. Not that I'm a huge fan or anything, but holy cow. So you'll notice I just went right across those stitches I just did. It adds interest and texture. So I'll catch up on the chat in just a second. Let me get a few more of these stitches in, or we'll be here all day. Yeah, you know, in California, we had this little mom and pop sewing machine chain called AAA Vacuum and Sewing. And they specialized in working on antique machines and parts for machines that you couldn't get parts for anymore. And I kind of wish I still lived in San Jose for you, Aunt Beck, because I would call them and see if they could, you know, help you out and get you a part or make you a part. Okay, now as I come up this one last side of this lace trim, I'm gonna take the pins out. Let's see. I'm selling 2 of my sergers now. I got. We're about the same age, Aunt Beck. I graduated in 81. I had 3. Yeah, Corona Brain, lovely Malia. By the way, hello, good morning. It's really a thing, you know. And my joke last week was I'm forgetting the English, and unlike the nerdy crafter who has a great excuse because she knows like something like 4 languages, I only know English. So when I forget the English, it's a big problem. And, you know, TV shows like Game of Thrones, although I wasn't a huge fan, I have seen it, and it's, hello, a show I should have been able to remember the name of. But we were talking about Snowpiercer, and I was saying that although Game of Thrones was very confusing, especially for someone who wasn't a fan, I thought the script was much better written than either the TV show or movie Snowpiercer. I'm not a fan. And if anybody out there is a fan, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, AAA Vacuum and Sewing at Beck, they had even, you know, it seemed like every time you went in, they had either a treadle sewing machine that they had just renovated and that they were selling, or some other really cool antique machine that they had found and then fixed and cleaned. And, you know, they would refinish the wood cabinet and everything, and then they would be selling it. And their prices weren't too bad. See, that's one of the things I am finding that I'm enjoying about the pandemic is that as an creative art community, because we can't get out and we can't find things and we can't do things like we're used to, at least from my perspective, there is a big group of us that we're helping each other out. And we're at least giving it a shot. I love that. We're coming together as a community, at least those of us who aren't, pardon my French, COVIDiots. Yeah, I even my FOF, I have a FOF, I think it's a 1546. I think so. It's not yet old, not new. I've had it quite a few years. It was expensive when I bought it, but I've had it a while. I had brother machines before that. In fact, I think my old brother machine, my daughter still has it. Not that she's using it for anything. All right, so we're nearly ready to put these on and our words, and then start doing some embroidery. I don't worry about like these threads like this, the unraveling. I kind of like the unraveledness. I agree with you, as does Barbara. I think that it's really fabulous that the art community is really pulling together and supporting each other, whereas other communities, family, people that you know aren't, and which surprises me. But I, at the same time, am not surprised that our creative communities we've cultivated are being so supportive. It's what we're best at, supporting each other. I mean, I had in the midst of all this, I started my slow stitch journey, and quickly, although I have a million colors of floss, ran out of some stuff. So I put the call out to my friends in one of my art Facebook chats. And of course, now I have a lot of floss because they all sent me floss. And I just got another package from Darlene, who I don't think is on today. She just sent me some more ice dyed cheesecloth and some other hand dyed little bits and pieces, which is fabulous. Yeah, that's the thing that's hard is, you guys are talking about moms not being able to, if your mom doesn't live with you, safely go see her. Neither of our moms are super close to where we're living. And Bob's mom is 91 years old. So, I have to say we would break all of those travel restrictions if something happens. But he calls her frequently and keeps in check with her. That's important. And he has a brother who lives near her, so. All right. I think I want to sew this little tail down. To either sew it down or cut it off because it's kind of bugging me. I'll catch up on the chat in just a minute. Okay, let's see. Okay, so then we have that, which is a great start. So now we have this to deal with. So we have to take the paper out. So I usually use either a Tim Holtz pokey tool or this small crochet hook that I have here. I just lift up like one edge, maybe two. Pull a little piece of paper out. You can, if it does this, because this one I didn't iron it or anything. So what you can do is do this. And that just sticks it back down where it should be temporarily. These have been glued for a while and they were ironed. Yeah, my parents were a great help when we moved. They don't live nearby, but they made a point because we were moving states. They came down. They, met the cleaning people here while we were driving up with our stuff and, well, some of our stuff. And they supplied us with some things that we needed while we were waiting for the moving truck with our furniture and all the things. I normally iron them. Yeah, I usually iron them. I usually do a whole bunch of them, and then I just give them a quick press with a hot iron, no steam. And that just makes the edges a little bit more crisp. I'm losing my English. I'm trying not to lose my English. Vicki Brown cracks everybody up. I don't think she's here because I don't think stitching is her thing. I'm not sure why you just said Vicki cracks you up. I might have missed something, but she cracks everybody up. She thinks she's not funny, by the way, those of you who don't know that. And if you ask her, she'll tell you that. Yeah, I mean, if the kids aren't interested in learning to sew, especially on a serger and sew knits, then I don't see the point in saving it for them either. I mean, I wouldn't bother. So once you have your paper out, and I just put the paper back in my little container so I can use it again. Yeah, Vicki Brown. Yeah, Messy Table Studios. So now it's, how do I want to position this? So I think maybe right about there. She does a lot of doodling and watercoloring. She'll tell you the watercoloring is my fault, which might be. I don't think she's into the slow stitching thing. And she lives in Texas. I think about her all the time. Texas is like a lot of other places, Texas is having a surge. So then again, I will pin it on and make sure before I sew anything that I like it. It's so hard. I ordered some more knit fabric from the Joann's website, but I don't like doing that because I like to look, touch, and feel my fabrics, especially knits. We'll see if I chose correctly. I'm not going to hold my breath. So I'm going to this is fabric that's made for running through your printer, and it's got this like sticky back on it. So I'm going to pull that off. You can iron muslin to a piece of freezer paper and then cut it to 8.5 by 11 and then run that through your printer. I would suggest before you sew it to anything or do anything with it, take it outside and spray it with a couple coats of like matte fixative and then peel it off the paper as you use it. Just gave it a little trim. No, I wouldn't. No, I like working with denim. Yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't do that. So I usually work with a thicker weight cotton unless I'm working in the meditation journal. These are just regular weight quilting cotton, but I like a thicker weight cotton, maybe a canvas, but my favorite are the thin, I have a piece right here, like the thin cotton batting as a base or felted wool. They make good bases and they're easy to stitch through. Plus they're both soft. Okay, so did I put all the pins? I meant to save myself a pin. I guess I didn't. Okay, so and then I'm gonna put a pin in the words and put that there. Sometimes I'll put buttons and things on here. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that today. I do also cut up shirts and things and save. Sometimes I save the tags. Oops. I might put that there. Speaking of that. So I think all those need to be sewn down. Okay, let's see. What are you guys talking about? Yeah, Daniel Smith is my favorite. Not do only do I love their color range of watercolor paints. They have a huge range, I think 238 colors or something. I love the way a lot of them granulate. I love the mixture of transparent and opaque colors, and I love that they're made in the US. So yeah, so Kathy, I mean, I don't have as much fabric as I used to when I was still a dressmaker, but I mean, my collection is nothing to sneeze at. What I have found, if you follow me on social media, is when I'm missing a color, especially because we can't really get safely to the stores to pick things out, that I am just dyeing it myself, and I'm experimenting with different found objects and things I have around the art room and around the house to dye fabric and dye different colors. And I've been doing different dye experiments. I've been posting them on social media, and I created a journal for my fabric dyeing experiments. I'll be sharing that in a video probably soon. I've got some other stuff that's drying, but I just found that that's more fun and a more useful use of the things that I have. I mean, I have an art room full of stuff. I don't really need to go buy anything. Yeah, Daniel Smith paints are awesome. And I love working with denim, Malia. Again, I make a lot of things with denim and have made a lot of things with old blue jeans and stuff. I wouldn't start out slow stitching on denim. That would just be a nightmare. That being said, you could do something on a piece of quilting cotton and then machine stitch it to the denim as a background. Okay, so now I think I'm good with this. So now I want to stitch them down. Yeah, and when I did it before, I did it with colored thread, which I think I want to do again. What colors do I have out? I have this color, which happens to work with that. That's already out. I have a blue. And I have a gray. But do I want to do gray, or do I want to do like this color? Maybe all of the above. So the Watercolor Ground by Daniel Smith works great on fabric. I did a slow stitch. It's in the slow stitch playlist on my YouTube channel. And I took a piece of canvas and I covered it with the watercolor ground, and then I did a watercolor on it, and then I incorporated it into a slow stitch. It worked wonderfully. Okay, so I think we're going to start with the green. I'm going to grab one of my bigger needles. And how many strands are here? I think it's 4. Yep. So we'll just separate that a bit. Now you don't have to do anything but running stitch if you don't want to. This is up to you. There's no, like with other parts of art, when I'm talking to you all, there's no right way, there's no wrong way, there's only your way. So you don't have to get any more complicated than a running stitch if you don't want to. I do blanket stitch, seed stitch, French knots, but you don't have to do any of those. I sometimes put a bullion stitch. I don't often like get into anything more complicated than that, just because I know how to do those without even thinking about it. And this is about letting go mentally of whatever is going on inside your brain. So I don't always do anything more than that. But you can do what you want with it. There's no wrong way. So I'm going to sew the hexagons on first with this green. And I'm just going to do little stitches here, I'll just around the edge. So I'm going to come up in the hexagon, go out in the cotton, and then go over about 1/8 of an inch and come up in the hexagon, and then go out in the cotton. And these generally take me a couple hours to do, just FYI. I don't know how long we've been on. What time is it? Oh, 11 o'clock. We have time. I don't know if we'll get this done while we're on camera, but if we don't, I'll post pictures on social media later. Yeah, so their ground works great on fabric. Now, fun fact, I don't necessarily like painting on the ground. I like painting on paper. That's my preference. Mostly I don't like working on the ground because I'm not used to it. I don't do it enough. And the watercolor reacts a little differently to the ground than it does to paper. But you get fabulous results. There is a name for this stitch and I don't remember what it is, FYI. Yeah, there are so many fun hand stitches. There are a couple of good websites for hand stitches. There are some great books out there. We discussed that before. We do have a resource list or lists going on in my Facebook group, A Life of Art and Self-Expression. So if you have something you want to have added to the list that you think is a good resource, be it a website, a shopping site, a book, put it in the comments below of the appropriate document and we'll get it at me or one of the admins will get it added. But if you even just go to DMC's website, they have some stitches on their website. If you do go to any like art trade shows, when we can have those again, not that we can have those right now. Sometimes companies like Daniel Smith will be there and they'll have sample sizes of some of their stuff, like the watercolor ground. Or the last time I saw them at a trade show was at Creativation in Arizona, and they had cards that had already been painted with the watercolor ground that they gave you, and then you could paint on the card. You could take it back to the hotel room or back home, and then you can try it without buying, a whole bottle of it. Bye, Kathy. Yeah, so there's all kinds of, I showed it on camera last time. I have a little spiral bound book of embroidery stitches, and I actually have one by the same person that's got crochet stitches and one that has knitting stitches and one that's for crazy quilting. They are just, I've had them for years and they're great to just throw in your bag and take with you. They're small and compact. I do have other books that are wonderful, but especially if I'm taking the project around with me, I take one of those little spiral bound books with me. So I would just do this all the way around until I have these sewn down. And then I would probably do something similar on the words and the label. And then you can see on this one, this little piece here was in the fabric. And then I did sort of a blanket stitch around it. You'll notice a couple different colors in the blanket stitch because I used one strand of each color of floss that I wanted to get a unique color. And then I sewed buttons on. I did the same stitch for the yo-yos that I'm doing on the one we're doing now. On this one, you can see just a little, like sort of a puddle of French knots. And there's another one down here. Added some lace. This is a piece of resin that I made, that I molded. I sewed it down. This is a piece of said canvas I've used for other things. And I actually sat one day and pulled some of the threads out of it in sections. And then I used some different fibers. Some of my art friends sent me to weave back through those empty spaces and then did a running stitch in between the spaces with different threads to create this sort of unique fabric, and then put it down. It wasn't super easy to do because the fibers didn't want to pull easily out of this canvas. But it was well worth it because I love the result of it. And then this is one that's done similarly, blanket stitch with a couple, actually 3 different colors of floss put together. French knots. There's a cross stitch here to sew this trim on. And then this one. Yeah, I had my dad's mom, my grandmother, my Italian grandmother, she was big on hand sewing, and I, of course, wasn't old enough to appreciate the tutelage. Now she's not with us anymore. Oh, thank you so much. They're fun to do, and they're the only problem with hand sewing I'm finding. You ready? You don't want to throw any of your scraps away now because you can use them for something. So that's an issue. I lost the thread. Hold on. There we go. And this is also a great way to maybe do some little compositions, trying out the idea of slow stitching, trying out some new stitches and experimenting. And you could sort of do a different one on each page and just give it a try, different compositions, different things. And then put it in a journal. And you could even make them a little smaller than I'm doing, and maybe make them, instead of 5 inches square on this page, maybe make them 3 or 4. And then you could actually make notes around the edge and do some journaling about the piece that you made. Yeah, you have to remember, especially as we get older, to stop, do your hand stretches and your flexing, right? That's super important. I have arthritis in both hands. I do have my compression gloves. I haven't been wearing them lately, but I keep this up with the hand sewing, and you're going to end up seeing me with them on. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. If you like to sew, then you've probably poked your hands. I have a habit. You see how I'm holding this? So I have a habit right now of doing this and coming up and then doing this and then poking myself right there. That's happened so many times. And then when I do glue this into the journal, I use either fabric tack or Yes Paste, something that's not super watery and intended for fabric, so that it won't soak through the fabric and will safely hold it to the paper. FYI, I meant to say that earlier. I don't think I did. Yeah, it's not a great place for a poke. And when you're working on a piece that is very white and cream colored. Yeah, so one of the art tools I have out on the table. Everybody recognize this? Get yourself a Tide to Go stick because you're probably going to need it. Or whatever kind of, laundry spot remover stick. I have a couple of them downstairs, and I have, a couple of them up here. Yeah, that was probably not a great idea, Barb. 6 hour. I used to do that with knitting, and 6 hours straight or more of knitting. And then I would get up and not be able to feel my fingers sometimes. It was a problem. No, when I do get this finished, before I glue it down, yeah, before I glue it in the journal, I usually give it a press with the iron, a nice hot press, and get it nice and flat, and then glue it in. I don't always. Right here is a little tough because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the folded under 5 layers of fabric. So try to keep your thumb out of the way if you're like me. My poor thumb on my left hand has been poked and sewn into so many times in my life that I've lost a little bit of the feeling in my thumb, to be fair. So I don't always know right away until I look down and go, oh, I'm bleeding. I want to encourage you all during this tough time that we're having to do whatever, creative expression thing you feel so inspired to do. Work out the stress and anxiety that you're feeling about the situation in your art. That's what we do art for. Um, if you want to let go of that and just have the art be your happy place, do something like this meditation journal, turn on the music, let the other stuff go. It'll still be there when you're done, trust me. And maybe it's a time for some other people in your family or your household who aren't doing creative things but are, struggling with the whole situation that's going on. Maybe it's time for them to at least try it, whether it's creative writing and journaling, or it's, slow stitching or painting or drawing, or, have them at least try it. What could it hurt? Let's see. Money for arts lesson fabric, yeah. I'm finding I'm spending less being home because I'm just focused on using what I have and not out buying the latest and greatest thing. Yeah, so sometimes it's challenging. One thing I try to make sure I do have blunt tipped like cross stitch and needles and like tapestry needles that are blunter tipped. I try to make sure when I'm stitching with, these are one of those Japanese embroidery needles, something that's really sharp. And I do have pliers close by over that way if I need them to help me pull the needle through. I'll grab my pliers, needle nose pliers. I also tend to do multiple layers of thinner fabric than, that was interesting. I just got somebody favorited something in my Etsy shop, but the title of it was in German. So they must have favorited it from the German Etsy site or something, because that was weird. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I tend to use mostly thinner fabrics for the most part to stitch with, but because can you imagine if this was like denim and canvas on top of each other? But that being said, when you have these lace crocheted trims and then this like twill tape, and it still adds up to a lot of layers. See you later, Lisa. Have a great evening. Stay safe. Oops. There we go. So you just do that until it's stitched down. And once you have all your pieces stitched down, then you can embellish it with the embroidery stitches. But it is good to take a break. I've been known to sit here for hours doing my stitching, and it's really not great for you. What extra thread do I have over here? Let's see. I like to use my extra bits of thread. Yeah, so if you're working with old blue jean denim, then that's a problem, but the store-bought denims are usually thinner. Oh, there you go. I also have a couple of mini, I can actually show you sometimes one of the things that I use. Hang on. You can tell this has been well used and well loved by me because when I found it at the thrift store, the top of it was pristine. I found this years ago at a thrift store, I think for like $2. And I use it for like pushing needles through, doing eyelets. It's just a good hard wood surface. And you too, Linda. And something like this is a great idea to have around when you're working on different art projects, but also slow stitching. And then, you know, I always have my needle nose pliers around for those days when I really am working with a lot of really thick fabric and I can't get the needle through. Yeah. So, and if you have a husband like Aunt Beck's husband, Scott, who does woodworking and stuff, and maybe he has a spare piece of butcher block from, you know, making a countertop or something, that works great. I don't know what this was originally for. I have no idea. But I've had it a long time and you can tell it's been well loved. I've dug a lot of holes in that thing. I will say if I ever see another one at the thrift store, I'll probably buy it just to have a backup. I have a few more minutes here. We'll stay on until 11:30 my time. 15 minutes, I think. I don't want to keep you all on here for hours because this could take me like the rest of the day to finish. Oops. Yeah, building stores. If you have a Habitat for Humanity restore near you, they sometimes have scraps of like butcher block, or ours has a little like thrift area too with like kitchen stuff. You're welcome, Nell. Yeah, the company definitely helps. And again, if you guys, as we wrap up the live today, because again, I don't want to keep you all on here like forever. This is gonna probably take me all day to finish. It takes me longer while I'm sewing and chatting with y'all. I love chatting with y'all, but it takes me longer. Anyway, if you guys want to share your work, share the community that we have in the art, I do have 2 Facebook art groups. A Life of Art and Self-Expression, and also My Creative Year. You're welcome to join and share your work, ask questions. If you need help with something, there's a lot of us out there that are willing to help, even if said help is just being there for somebody to chat with right now. Like we all need that, and giving you ideas of how you can work out some of the stress that we're all feeling in your art and in your creativity, because that's important too. It's tough right now on everybody, and we get that. We also have in A Life of Art and Self-Expression some resource lists for slow stitching. And if you have a suggestion for one of the resource lists, again, put it in the comments of that list and we will get it added as soon as we can. I have found that there's a lot of really great Etsy sellers out there. Listen, I'm never going to be that person that is so busy thinking about me that I'm not going to help anybody else. That is just not who I am. And that's just never going to happen. The rest of the world can go completely insane, but that's never going to be me. And don't forget too, when we're looking for supplies and it's not safe to get out, or you're not comfortable getting out, I'm just grabbing random colored threads off of my pincushion, by the way, of needles that have thread in them. There's a lot of places, like Goodwill has a website you can shop at. And some of the other thrift sites do too. So check and see what they have. Your local stores may not have a online shopping site. If they're like mine, they don't all, but they do have the ability to do curbside pickup, and you can call them if you've been there before, and you can say, hey, I need DMC floss number 535. Do you have 4 skeins of it? And if they have it, you can do a drive-by thing and go pick it up, pay for it online, or pay for it over the phone and do that. So, oops. I'm not sure if I should be doing this in this dark gray color, but I'm going to anyway. Exactly. And we're a community. We're a big extended family of artists, and I would love to see us supporting each other more. And no matter what your opinions are on the virus, be there for each other, because whether you are on one side of the fence or the other, it's still stressful. This is backstitch, by the way. I just want to get all these little pieces sewn on before we are done for the day. There we go. Let's see. The thread's caught on something. There we go. So if you have a journal, so I didn't make that journal specifically for this. Like most of you, I have journals in my closet, probably way too many. I've made them, people have sent them to me, and I don't want to get rid of them, but at the time they come in, I don't have a specific use for them. When I want to start something like this meditation journal, I just go into the closet and I pull out one that I think is going to work. So don't make a specific journal for this if you have a closet full of them, like most of us do. Go look in said stash of journals and pull one out that has blank pages that you think will work for this. It has kind of a decent weight paper. You want like mixed media or thicker paper to hold these pieces of fabric on and be sturdy. And then just start experimenting. And the great thing is you can glue them into the journal at any time, but you really only need to have this and like a spool of thread and a few scraps with you, and you can take it downstairs, and you can really do this anywhere, where this little slow stitch is small. Maybe you're in the car because the husband's in the doctor's at an appointment. They'll only let one of you in. So you can be in the car doing your stitching. If you're like me, it'll help keep your mind off of him being inside the doctor's office. Maybe it just keeps you occupied so you're not going crazy. And this is, by the way, this is the other time that I usually poke myself, because I usually have this finger right here and I usually go that way. That's the other finger that gets jabbed a lot. Let's see. So then I would take that and then I would look at it and sit with it for a bit. And then I would do some embellishments on it before I would say it was done. I don't think it needs a lot more. I don't even think it needs buttons. I just think it needs some French knots and things. Yeah, I don't disagree now. I think we can get through this and we just have to work together. Thank you. It's just scraps. Literally, it's just scraps. So you don't have to have tons of fancy stuff. This is pieces of a shirt that I found at the thrift store. This is some muslin that I eco-dyed like years ago, and it's been just sitting in my stash because we all tried eco-dyeing, right? And then didn't do anything with the fabric. This is trim out of one of the old shirts that I cut up. I did order some quilting cotton. It came wrapped in this ribbon. So before you leave, here we go. So this is a sample. So I've spoken about this before. And if I get in trouble from Mood, because y'all do this, thankfully I don't have a following like Shannon Green. So one of the ways that I am getting parts for my stash, we'll put this up here for now, is ordering samples from Mood Fabrics. So Mood Fabrics, the same Mood Fabrics from Project Runway, if you're a fan, has an online store, and you can order fabric swatches from them for, most of them are about $1.50 a swatch. The swatches come and they're about 4x6. And you can get, there is a minimum number of swatches, and I forget how many it is. Or I'm sorry, maximum number. I don't remember how many, but look how big this one is. This is bigger than 4x6. I am going to be working on a Frida Kahlo face slow stitch. So I ordered this last time some of these shears in different blushy, purpley, pinky, and flesh tones, and some gray. And it's a great way to add different things to your stash. I also ordered some lace. I couldn't resist the turquoise. I found this one. And then this one, I wasn't sure about this one, but it's an interesting texture. So those just came in, and that gray one I was pointing out to you earlier, this one with this here, this is the other half of this piece. That's one of the swatches. So if you go to Mood Fabrics, see, I ordered this one again because I love this one. You can get these swatches if you want to add texture to your stash of slow stitch fabrics. Texture, something that you're missing, say textures and shears, which for me, I wanted to add that. So then I can just get swatches. I'm not stuck with like even 1/8 of a yard. Some of these fabrics are 60 inches wide. I don't need that much, even 1/8 of a yard in length, in width, and 60 inches wide. I don't need that much fabric. These are perfect for the stitching that I'm doing. I don't need more than this. And it's a way to have a nice variety, but not too much fabric. So Mood Fabrics. And then, like Darlene sent me the ice dyed cheesecloth. If you have friends, like we've been doing in our art chat, if somebody's low on something, I've been doing all this eco dyeing, and Lisa said, I could use some of that, cotton trim you've been making. I said, sure, tell me which one. And yeah, you always have scraps. If you're a fabric lover and you're a sewer, you always have fabric scraps that you don't want to get rid of that you love. And I have a couple myself, and they're not really big enough to do anything with, but you just don't have the heart to get rid of them. They're great to incorporate into something like this. For instance, this fabric right here is a cotton print with this little tiny white flower on it. I can't really find anywhere else. It's by Sweet Bee Designs. And I love this, but then the pandemic hit and I can't find it, and I can't easily find it online, not by itself. I don't need it in a wad of a bunch of other fat quarters. I have too much fabric already. But I didn't want to throw the scraps away, so I just have been saving them and incorporating them into other stitches. There's always bits that, hello, look at my table. There's always bits that you don't want to get rid of. And I even have like this little tiny square from something. I have this little piece this was a rainbow rickrack. I'm not sure why this green floss is here, but that's here. Like there's always something. There's just bits I don't have the heart to get rid of. And so here's the other piece of the rainbow rickrack. So I will incorporate them at some point into a slow stitch, probably a small project like this one. And the ones that are just too small to do anything with, even the thread, save them and, make yourself a little jar and save them. And when you're working on some of these slow stitches, like maybe you're making a slow stitch pin cushion or something like that, you can use these as stuffing rather than being worried about going out and buying stuffing. All right, I think that's it for today. I will finish this off camera because I don't think it's quite done, but it's pretty close. But I'll be doing some fancy stitches to it, and I'll be posting it later on social media. And so you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter or over on the Facebook art groups and see what it looks like over there. I'll probably post the picture in A Life of Art and Self-Expression. I have things from my grandmother too. When I cleaned out her stash, I found these. I'm not sure what these are for. Originally, they were in her button box, but I will be using them for something going forward. So that's why they're out on the table. Josie, hi. You came in as I was going out. Hey, how are you? I also found these, which look like old hook and eyes from the back of a bra or something. They were in her button stash. Oh, they're curtain rings. Oh, that makes sense. So I'll be sewing them onto something at some point. And then, there's weirdness. Like I was using up resin, and so I made a bunch of resin pieces to use up some old resin, and I already used one here on this slow stitch page that is the last one that I did. And I have, I've got like a million buttons because my grandmother had a bunch of buttons. And see, here's another scrap. I saved this little scrap just because there's a bee on there, and I just couldn't throw them away. Thank you. I am going to be putting some bags of some of these resin pieces on the Etsy shop. They probably won't be very sanded on the back, so they'll be very unfinished, so you can finish them and do what you want with them. You don't need anything fancy to sand the back. You can just use a nail file. I have a couple of different colorways and different shapes. Some of these donut shapes, some of these more pendant shapes. I did some, what do you call them? Wax seal shapes. This I drilled a hole in, but yeah, I'm not drilling a hole in all of them. You can, but I'm probably going to put little bags of them in the Etsy shop for people. That's the other thing. I have so much excess that I'm either giving it to friends or I'm listing it in the Etsy shop or sharing. I mean, again, we can't really get out and we need to use what we have. I'm all about that. And, share the inspiration too. I mean, I'm so glad I found Anne Brooke, and she is really inspiring as far as fabric creations are concerned in textile art. And if you don't know who she is, we will link her after the fact in the video description. Also, we can put something over in the Facebook group. You're welcome, Aunt Beck. Don't forget to, as we go forward with this pandemic, because I don't think it's going away anytime soon, to be kind to each other, to support each other. Let's share things like the meditation journal that we're doing that's really helping you like de-stress and relax and at the same time be creative. Don't forget to be very supportive of each other. Support the free content on YouTube if you can. I understand that is hard for some of you maybe aren't working right now. But most of your content creators have a way to support them. Of course, myself included, but usually it's Etsy, but not always. Sometimes it's a PayPal tip jar. Sometimes it's Patreon, whatever it is. If you can support them, even if it's to give them a kind word, give them a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe their videos, whatever it is. There's enough hate and stress out there. We don't need to add to that. So let's don't. I'm looking at this right here and I'm thinking this might. No, that doesn't need to be. Sorry, distracted. And just stay safe, stay healthy, and stay creative. And go out and don't forget to do something nice for yourself, but also someone else, because they deserve it and so do you. I'm still that person at the store that if I see the little old lady and she's okay with me helping her with something off the high shelf, I'm going to do that. I would still, despite the pandemic, stop that kid from running out in the street. Let's not forget basic human decency, because that's important right now. Bye, everyone. Don't forget to ask for those video links and other things that we've said we promised. You can ask in a Life of Art and Self-Expression if I forget to put it in the video description. And the recording, Josie, will be up in a few minutes. And I hope you all enjoy slow stitching. And after I get all of the embroidery done on here, I'm going to eat some lunch first. I will be using some fabric tack or Yes paste, and I'll be gluing it in over here on the back side and adding another page to my book. Hey, Marion. My table's a mess again. It's covered with fabric and thread. All right, that's it for today, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. All right, bye, guys.